guys, welcome back. So today is July 2nd. It is officially the midpoint of the year, and so today we're going to be jumping right in to the mid-year book freakout tag. This is a tag that is frequently done this time of year on BookTube and Bookstagram. I'm assuming probably on BookTok as well. I've done one or two of these videos before, and I thought that I would jump on the train and do another one for the year. So I did post a static version of this on Instagram, so I will tag my Instagram down below. You can probably see Dobby, my puppy, playing on the beanbag back there. One of the videos that you all have seen before this one is a reading room revamp video, and in that video you have seen that we bought this giant beanbag, which has now basically become Dobby's giant dog bed. He loves laying in there, he rolls around in it, he plays with his toys in there. So you'll probably see him back there throughout the video. Hopefully he won't grab your attention too much and steal the spotlight. So I'm gonna go ahead and jump right into the different prompts for this tag and talk to you guys about some of the books that I've read so far this year. So the first prompt or question is, how many books have you read so far this year? Compared to like your actual reading goal for the year. So my reading goal was 100 books for the year. That is a little bit less than what I have set it in previous years. Previously, the last probably 3 or 4 years, I have had my goal set at like 110, 120, and I have been able to surpass that. But this year, with Nick's health condition and work and all the things, I kind of had an idea at the beginning of the year that may not be feasible this year, and so I brought it down to 100 books. I know that I'm more than likely going to pass that, but I figured that would be the most attainable and like realistic number. So my goal was 100 books, like I said, and I have hit 52 books, so I'm more than halfway to my goal, and being that we're halfway to the year, that is perfect. According to Goodreads, I'm like 2 books ahead of schedule, so I would take that. The next question is going to be the best book that you've read so far in 2024. I thought about this one for a while. I looked at my book tracker that I have. I looked at Goodreads, trying to pick, and I could not pick just one. So I have 2 actually. The first is going to be The Guncle by Stephen Rowley. I absolutely loved this book. I went into it not really knowing what it was about. If you don't know me, I am a very spoiler-free kind of reader. I don't like spoilers. I don't read the backs of books. I don't read synopses. I like to go in pretty blind, and so I didn't really know what the book was about, and I expected it to be like a fun read, and it was fun in that it is very funny and heartwarming. I love the banter and the characters, but it was also very sad at times, and it deals a lot with grief and loss and trauma, and loss from different perspectives. Loss of a significant other, loss of a parent, loss of a best friend, of a sister-in-law. And how one loss can kind of have a ripple effect and affect an entire family, and affect the world of so many people who knew that person. And like I said, there are a lot of funny moments. There are a lot of pop culture references and that kind of thing, and I love that. I love books with banter. I love family dynamics. I really love when books have kids who are kind of like the sidekicks to the main character, and this had that, and I absolutely loved the dynamic between the 3 main characters. I really loved The Guncle. I wasn't expecting to like it as much as I did, and I absolutely loved it. The second book is Don't Let the Forest In. This one, again, took me by surprise. I had a feeling that I was going to like it, but I didn't know that I was going to love it as much as I did. This actually isn't out yet. I was lucky enough to get an e-arc of it through NetGalley, and I was 10 pages in, and I already knew that this author is going to be an auto-buy author for me. This is her debut novel, and it is beautifully written. It has dark academia vibes, dark getting lost in the forest vibes. It's set in a boarding school right on the edge of these large, dark, creepy woods. There are a lot of like monsters and kind of body also queer, and there is a kind of reveal. There, it's a little bit of a mystery thriller as well. This had everything that I love in books. I really, really enjoyed it, and I'm super excited to see what else this author writes. Then the next question is going to be the best sequel read in 2024, and that is going to be Iron Flame by Rebecca Yarros. This is the sequel to Fourth Wing. I read Fourth Wing last year and then didn't get to, I think Iron Flame actually came out last year, but I didn't get to it until early this year. I think I finished it in January, and I really enjoyed it. Not as much as Fourth Wing, but it was still really good, and it's definitely by far the best sequel I've read so far this year, and I'm very excited for Black Onyx, I think is the name of the third book. I'm very excited for the next book in the series. The most anticipated release for the second half of the year is definitely going to be Beyond the Sea by TJ Klune. I love TJ Klune. He is one of my favorite authors. House on the Cerulean Sea is one of my favorite books. I read In the Lives of Puppets last year, and that was my tied for my top book of the year last year. I will read anything TJ Klune writes. I absolutely love his writing and his characters, and just everything about his writing and the stories that he puts together. So I'm super excited for Beyond the Sea, which is, or Somewhere Beyond the Sea, I'm sorry, which is the sequel to The House of the Cerulean Sea. The biggest surprise was Bride by Ali Hazelwood. I have typically had a very love-hate relationship with Ali Hazelwood. I have read and or tried to read every book that she has released since The Love Hypothesis, which I think was her first book, and then I read Love on the Brain, which I didn't love, and then I forget what the other ones are, but like I said, I finished Love Hypothesis, I believe I finished Love on the Brain, and then I think there's another one that came out recently that I did not finish. I believe I DNF'd it. So I hate to say this, but I kind of hate read her books a little bit, just to see if eventually there'll be one that I will like, and it turns out that there is. And it's no surprise that this would be her one fantasy book. There are just a lot of tropes and things in her, like contemporary romances, that I just don't love. But Bride didn't have any of those things, and I loved the story. Again, there was a like sidekick character in it that I loved. I loved the main character. I felt like she was, I think her name is Misery. She was so different from Ali Hazelwood's other like female main characters. I loved the male main character. I loved everything about it. So it was definitely a surprise. I definitely went into it thinking that it was going to be another bust for me for Ali Hazelwood, but again, I was completely surprised and I ended up loving it. The next question is going to be your favorite new author, and that is definitely C.G. Drews, who wrote Don't Let the Forest In. Like I said, I absolutely love her writing. I follow her on Instagram, and her whole aesthetic I'm obsessed with. She is writing, like, she already has like 2 or 3 books planned for the future, and I'm so excited to get to all of them. Definitely my newest favorite author. Newest favorite crush, fictional crush, is going to be Andrew and Thomas from Don't Let the Forest In. I loved their relationship. I loved the way they protected each other, the way they fought the monsters and things that happened in the story. I don't want to give it away, but also I didn't mention that Don't Let the Forest comes out, I believe it's in October. Let me double check. Yeah, so it releases on October 29th. I highly suggest going to get it from the library or buying it. I'm sure it's like on pre-sale or whatever right now. Not only is this book perfect, but it is definitely perfect for the October spooky season reading time. The next question is going to be a book that made you cry, and that is The Women by Kristen Hanna. I love Kristen Hanna. She's another like auto read author for me. I've loved every book that I've read by her. Her books always make me cry. She does historical fiction, always very like woman centric and about the women and people who are kind of forgotten in history, and I love that. I'm a big history buff, especially like World War II and that kind of era. The Women is about the Vietnam War and the female nurses who served during that war and the kind of backlash they faced and how they were not as they weren't thanked for their service the way that men veterans typically are. And at that time, even men veterans weren't really like revered like they are now. But that book was very good. It's actually probably my favorite book by Kristen Hanna, and I've read several. So yeah, like I said, as soon as I see that she has a new book coming out, it is automatically on my like want to read list on Goodreads, because I love her writing, and I always love the subject matter, and like I said, her books are always hard-hitting and serious. Her character like development and the way she writes the relationships between these characters, I love her writing so much. The next one is going to be a book that made you happy, and that is going to be The Guncle Abroad by Stephen Riley. That is the sequel to The Guncle. I just finished that like last week, I think, and I absolutely loved it. That one also made me cry. The sequel is it takes place obviously after the first book, but you see more development of the relationship between Patrick, who is the main character, and then the two kids, his pseudo niece and nephew. Well, I guess actually technically they are his niece and nephew, because his best friend ends up marrying his brother, and then their kids are his niece and nephew. So I wasn't sure again what to expect going into it, because where The Guncle ended, it could have been a standalone. But I love this. Again, you get to see the kids growing up, you get to see their relationships changing, you get again more loss and grief and dealing with a parent who is moving on after the loss of the other parent. The last 5 chapters of that book had me crying happy tears, and I love Stephen Riley's writing, and I am very much looking forward to any other books that he writes. A new release that I haven't read is A Fate Inked in Blood. This one has been pretty popular. I know a lot of people in the book club that I'm in have read it. Again, I don't really read like synopsis and spoilers, reviews, anything like that before, so honestly I have no idea what it's about, but I know that it's gotten a lot of good reviews, so I definitely want to get to it here soon. The biggest disappointment for 2024 is the next question, and that for me is The House of Last Resort by Christopher Golden. I got an arc of this on NetGalley in like January or February, I think, and I finished it, but honestly I really wanted to DNF it. The first like 60-70% of the book was so good. You have like a spooky like house at the end of a street, like on the edge of a cliff. It's set in Italy. You have these Americans who have moved to Italy to kind of start over, and all these weird things start happening at their house. There's like a locked door element. There's some mention of like possession and exorcism and that kind of thing, which typically I don't like, but this, like, it was part of the story, but it wasn't like super heavy into it, and it was mentioned, it was never really like shown, so I was okay with it, and I really liked where it was going. It was just spooky enough to creep me out enough, but not make me like overly scared where I felt like I couldn't keep reading the book. But then like 60-70% in it, there's a reveal, and the reveal for like why these things are happening, and like the explanation for like the paranormal element of the story was honestly kind of dumb to me. Like, that sounds harsh, I hate to say that, but it didn't make sense, and it seemed like such an easy out, and I did not like it. It just completely ruined the story thereafter for me. So yeah, that was definitely my biggest disappointment. I haven't read any other books by Christopher Golden, so I may have to check out some other ones maybe, but yeah, that was definitely one that I was excited for and was really enjoying, and then was let down at the end. So those are all of the questions for the mid-year book freakout tag. I decided to add in some stats. I don't know if people typically add these onto these videos, but I'm using this new fancy like book tracker that does all the charts and pie graphs and all those things, and so I wanted to use some of those stats that I now have. So I don't have very many, but like I said, I have read 52 of 100 books. My best reading month so far was May with 12 books. That's pretty average normally in previous years. That's pretty average for me. My average is about 12 to 13 books a month. May was 12 books. All the other months have been 5, 6, maybe 7 books. I think one month I had 8 books. So I'm definitely not reading as many as I typically would, but May was a good reading month for me. The most read format is ebooks, which isn't surprising because I get a lot of arcs that are ebooks. I use Kindle Unlimited a lot, so that's not too surprising, previous years when I was working out of the house, audiobooks were by far my most read format because I was listening to audiobooks on my commute to and from work. Now I work from home, so I don't have that commute anymore. So I do still listen to some audiobooks, but again, because most of the arcs that I receive are ebooks, and again, I read a lot of Kindle Unlimited books, it makes sense that that would be my most common format. My most read genre is mystery thriller, which is actually kind of surprising. I thought that I had read more like fantasy this year, but apparently not. I do love mystery thrillers. That is usually one of the higher genres for me, so it's not a huge surprise, but I did honestly think that it was going to be fantasy. Then another stat that I thought was interesting but not a surprise is that 20% of the books I've read have been rereads. I have reread a lot of books this year, which I'm very happy about. I know some people don't like to do rereads, or they feel like they don't count, but I love rereading books. I have one of my goals for the year is to finish as many series as I can, and I'm the kind of person that if I'm going to move, like for example, if a series has 4 books in it and I've read the first 3 books but I read them like a year, 2-3 years ago, I feel like I need to start over and start from the beginning and read the first 3 books again until then get to the 4th book. So it takes longer than it probably should because I'm starting over, and because of that has led to a lot of rereads. So for example, I finished last month, I finished the Illuminate Files. I had read Illuminate, the first book in the series. I went back and reread it, and then read Obsidio, and then Gemina, and I plan on doing the same with other series that I'm hoping to finish this year. So again, that's not surprising. I love rereads. I find a lot of comfort in reading things that are familiar to me, especially books that I'm very familiar with. I read every year. Every year I reread ACOTAR. Every year I reread Harry Potter. I reread the Chronicles of Narnia. So a lot of, again, those kind of comfort reads I tend to go back to every year. So again, having that many rereads is not surprising, and I'm sure that number will probably honestly go up. So yeah, there you have it. Those are all of my tags for this video. Those are all my stats for so far in the year. I'm hoping to continue to gather that like data and continue using this book tracker so that at the end of the year I can do a big video with all of my stats and all the info and kind of have all the nerdy numbers and stuff. So that is it for this video. Thank you so much for being here and following along, and I will see you in the next one.